G'day and welcome back to Reality Check. And this week I'm very excited to have our very dear friends Donna Leonardo and Jerry and John Tedesco, the Nightcrawler team, our favourite citizen scientists from Long Island, upstate New Jersey, the people who do all the fantastic work investigating anomalous phenomena around the very interesting approaches to JFK, New York. Guys, welcome back to Reality Check. It's good to have you back here.
Hello, Ross. We're happy to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Nice to see you.
And at some stage, I've got to ask you about your take on the orb that Megan Orada described, our producer colleague who was in the Greek islands. And I understand you've got something to say about that. But I'm very excited to talk to you all about the ongoing work that you've been doing, because I know you've got three particularly interesting sightings cases that you want to talk about today. There's, I think, to start off, there's a multi-camera water UAP. It's an object that appears to be coming in and out of the water as it comes towards you, and then it goes up onto the beach, and you've captured quite extraordinary imagery of that. Then you've got, well, frankly, a black triangles multiple that you captured inside a cloud and caught on radar. And then finally, there's this really interesting luminous object. But before we get into that, I'm really interested in drawing all of you on the broad issue. What's your take on the whole New Jersey, New York, Long Island drones flap, as it was called? Was it all hysteria, as we're being assured now by different debunkers and different government departments? Were we all totally misled, and was this just a hysterical piece of nonsense on our part, seeing things that weren't there?
No, not at all, Ross. We've been seeing these things. We've been observing them for quite a while now. Quite recently, we had recorded some drone activity down at Robert Moses. They look like typical drones in this particular case. They kind of large, commercial type, almost 6 feet across in diameter. And this is something that we've actually reported, and we contacted the FBI about, because this is an area that the drone flight is illegal, simply because it's in the parklands near the municipal airport out here, JFK.
Yeah, I mean, as I understand it, from where you guys stand, looking out from the beach towards the ocean, that's essentially the approach route going from left to right towards JFK International Airport in New York, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, these particular drones were unusual in the fact that they resembled, though, at least a couple, the ones that we got close enough to view with a zoom lens. They resembled quadcopters, but they were very difficult to see even with the infrared. They consistently shut their lights off and changed their positions. And when their lights were off, they were virtually impossible to see, except with the fact that we had night vision cameras, or we had infrared cameras.
Were they visible with the naked human eye?
No, when the lights went off, you couldn't even see. You couldn't see them with your naked eye.
Right. But there was a set of, it looked like a set of spotlights on them, or floodlights of some sort. When those lights were on, you could definitely see. You could definitely see the extreme luminance coming off the quadcopter itself. When the lights were off, very difficult. The presentation was very difficult to see, even with the low light cameras and IR. Extremely difficult to.
What about noise?
No noise at all.
No noise at all. These things were quiet.
The other thing is, they could have had a light absorbing paint. They were dark. They were black.
That's actually a very good question, Donna, because if you're describing, guys, something that essentially looks like a quadcopter, were you close enough to have heard propellers, if there were propellers, as you would expect with a quadcopter?
We didn't hear. We heard nothing from these, and we should have heard. We should have at least heard the rotor. The rotors.
How close were you?
yes, when they presented, they were roughly about a quarter mile away.
Yeah.
And then an altitude of about 700 or 800 feet.
The interesting thing is they were over the water. They were off the coast. We had looked to see if there was anybody operating a remote system to operate them. There was nobody on the beach. There was nobody in the parking areas. There was all boats within range that we could see. And the first area we saw them was off the coast.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you think they're really quadcopters? I mean, have you guys seen what quite a number of people in New Jersey have reported to me is that these things look like a quadcopter, or in some cases, they even look like a commercial aircraft or a light aircraft, and then they somehow change shape. Have you seen that morphing that goes on?
I think that's the confounding variables here. When we see these objects, I think there's some confusion as far as what folks are seeing. At times they present and they do look like drones. There is some kind of a wing structure or something that presents away from the body of the object itself, some kind of a lighting pattern. There is a flash. That's the synchronization of the flash doesn't seem to coincide with commercial air traffic. At other times, these objects look like just orbs of light, and what we wonder is whether or not we're dealing with two different things here. We're dealing with two different objects. The possibility that one is in fact some kind of a drone, some kind of a UAS vehicle, and the other being an orb of some sort, and it's
some kind of surveillance operation.
Possibly.
Maybe they're surveilling these orb-like objects, which are very different.
Well, that's one thing that has been suggested to me, is that there is a covert government private aerospace response deploying some kind of highly advanced craft in that area to monitor whatever these objects are that you guys are seeing. Can I ask you this? In any of the observations that you've made with these objects, have you ever seen one morph? Because multiple people have described to me, and in some cases sent me, imagery of objects that one minute looked like a quadcopter, and the next minute that same object seems to look like a very, very slow-moving and not quite the right shape or size 737 commercial passenger jet.
Can I say one thing about the New Jersey spotted drones? There was a lot going on in that time period, and I know other experts have already weighed in last year, earlier this year, that there might have been many things in the skies, and then people sent up more of their own recreational drones. Then you had municipal helicopters or craft up looking, plus other government craft. And so after a while, people were reporting seeing things and probably not aware that maybe some of these vehicles were quite ordinary. However, something that doesn't relate to like the sightings in Langley and Denmark and everywhere else all over the world, Germany, in northern New Jersey, right before the flap, there was a private company. I won't say the name. You might have come across it, everybody on X. I came across it and after the drone flap had started, and I just waited, but no one else has really picked up on this. There is a man, a CEO of this startup company. It's not a startup anymore. They do a delivery service. They're working in other states already where they deliver pharmacy items. They deliver food items. And talking about things morphing, I'm just wondering, because that morphing has been cited in New Jersey only. I haven't heard other reports of the other locales. When this company delivers, they had a test facility ongoing during the flap in New Jersey somewhere, and I've not been able to find out where in New Jersey. But right before they started their testing in the New Jersey facility, the man posted, and it's still on X, there will probably be something to the effect there'll be UAP sightings now. And there was. And now the nature of how they deliver is there is this very small wing type of a craft that drops and releases a drone, and the drone then descends and makes a delivery. But even if that were the case in some areas of New Jersey, I can't imagine that these types of vehicles or the delivery service was responsible for the lawmakers in New Jersey who said that they were followed on or the military was followed on in the water with a bunch of them. And also that delivery service is not testing or supplying customers in areas like Germany, Virginia, where so that can't explain it all either. But see how it just makes everything confounding, more
Yeah,
confounding.
but also my understanding is that in America it's a requirement, it's a legal requirement that you display some kind of transponder. So they should show up on the ADS-B or flight tracker, shouldn't they, John and Jerry?
Yes,
Exactly.
and that's the problem. There's no identifying feature, and this basically they'd be flying illegally.
Yeah.
You have to identify yourself. You have to have navigation lighting. So
Yeah.
it's bizarre, and in the sheer numbers of these objects.
Sure.
There's this,
So I just want to drill down because I sent both Jerry and John an email relating to a New York Post story that had
Yes.
a guy at an air show claiming that it was his new drone technology that was responsible for the plague of New Jersey sightings. What do you think of that claim? It's a new startup company that's got a new type of drone, and he claimed, or somebody anonymously claimed from within that company, that they were responsible for the rash of supposed drone sightings.
Well,
that I would say that would explain a small number of objects that or that people may have seen. It doesn't explain the large number. The other thing is we have sheriff's departments out there. They were looking at these things. These things were moving at rates beyond the typical speed. That thing looked like it was relatively slow.
Yeah. Can I ask both you gentlemen, one of the things that I know the White House said in January when Carolyn Levitt was first asked about this and Trump honoured a promise to find out about what was causing this supposed drone flap, she came back with the explanation that these were FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, authorised, quote, research drones. You guys, I know, have been in touch with the FAA and the FBI. Have you had any indication at all that the FAA authorised research drones in that area at the time? There's never been any such acknowledgement from the FAA, to my knowledge.
There's never been an acknowledgement. The other thing is, why wouldn't they notify all the law enforcement divisions and the it's a safety becomes a safety hazard. Right. It does really makes a lot of sense.
And so is the ongoing is the drone mystery, let's not even call them drones, the mystery objects, you guys are still seeing them?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So do you think the drone flap, so-called, ever went away, or did the media just stop covering it in the main?
The drone-like objects that we're seeing seem to pop up in a September to November timeframe, or maybe into early December, and we've seen it in 2022. We saw it in 23, and we just saw it recently. And we usually see them between the hours of 7 and 11. Right?
Yeah, generally before 12, and it's and it seems to be a climax in November.
Yeah.
So this is 7 to 12 at night.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you have these orb-like objects that can be out all night long, and they just pop in and out, which are very, very different from what these drone-like.
You very kindly put together, and thank you for doing this great work, guys. You've put together really helpful briefs for me to understand some of what you've been seeing recently. And there's an event that took place on the 5th of July this year, 2025. It starts off with what looks like an orb hovering over the ocean. Talk me through, and we'll show the video here, talk me through what you saw that evening.
Okay, so this was an object that presented over the water. Initially, what we saw was something that roughly about 600 feet from the surface off the Atlantic Ocean. We saw an object that was not very luminous, very, very low light, not really in the IR. Some visible light was present, and we noticed that the light presented in the same basic area, the same area of the sky. Within a short period of time, that object disappeared, and we saw this what looked like a sphere on the water, extremely bright, luminous sphere.
Are you seeing this with your naked eye, or only with your hyperspectral or FLIR camera?
This was invisible to the eye, completely invisible. It was only through the hyperspectral cameras.
Wow. Were you getting it on radar?
Nothing on radar, and the object might have been too small for radar anyway.
And it was also close on the ocean surface, so we would get kind of a
Yeah,
merge
we would
plot.
get a reflection from the
Yeah.
water. It's not something that can't be distinct between whether or not it's a separate entity from the water, especially that close. The object presented itself like I said, like a sphere. We had multiple cameras on it, multispectral cameras from different locations. Gerald was able to visualize it through a thermal camera, believe it or not, and he was able to see a very clear sphere, three-dimensional, that seemed to have some kind of a murkiness to it, or reflective activity from the water itself. And we believe the reason why we saw the object might have been from sea spray or something, some kind of a cooling effect.
Yeah, it might have been the water, and it seemed that it might have had a reflective surface, and with the moisture from the water, it could have been reflecting the water, but it made it noticeable.
So using the thermal camera, was it warmer or colder than the seawater around it?
It was actually colder.
Yeah, it was slightly colder.
Really?
Right,
so it's not a Chinese lantern or something simple like that?
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, and this was a perfect sphere. It was like I said, this was a thermal image. It wasn't an artifact. I was using a high-end thermal camera, a FLIR camera with 25 times zoom to look at it, and it was bizarre because it stood on the water on its end without being disturbed by the wave action of the water.
Did it go into the water? In the video that you've sent me, it does look occasionally like it's gone into the water.
Right, but with no disturbance of the water. There was any kind of a disturbance, no disturbance that we could record, that we could see, which is typically the case if there was an object floating on the water, if it was actually moving, between the crest of the waves, that sort of thing.
Bob.
Yeah, that's something that we didn't see at all.
And it wasn't in the video. You'll notice it wasn't bobbing up and down. It was, and it wasn't being covered by the waves. And the thermal too. I noticed it just disappeared, and then it was there.
Yeah, it just
I didn't see it submerge.
Right.
So
and
which direction was the wind? Is it coming with the wind, or is it moving intelligently, directing itself against the wind?
No. So this is the interesting thing. The wind that day was that particular time at night was moving in a northwest direction, and the object was moving almost due east.
So it was moving against the wind. Wow.
Exactly.
And we should say it was stationary for a short period of time, and then it began to move to the east.
Right. And the object at times was extremely bright. It was giving off enough luminous energy where it can be seen in the IR, the brightest thing on the surface of the water. And the interesting thing that we observed right away was that there was no reflective. There was no light impinging upon anything around the object, like the water, the surface of the water.
So
it seemed to be self-illuminating.
That's what I don't understand, is how come you can see this object with the thermal camera and the hyperspectral camera, but you can't see it with your human eyeball?
Right. So again, this is something that, this might be some kind of signature management. It's
just outside the range of visual range.
Just to explain to our audience, the human eye has got a very narrow field of what it can see, visible light.
Right.
And your cameras, the FLIR camera, the thermal camera, and the hyperspectral camera, they can pick up light bandwidths that we can't see with the grade 1A eyeball.
Exactly.
Yeah, a far bigger spectrum.
Yeah, the visible range is anywhere between about 400 to about 650 nanometers.
Yeah, it's very narrow.
From blue to red.
So do you think this object was disguising itself to avoid being seen by the human eye?
I mean, behaviorally, it would appear like that it was trying to stay hidden.
Right. I mean, it's this is not something you see on a regular basis, especially something that can just go well beyond even near infrared and into a more like it's like a shortwave infrared. So that's an extreme signature. That's an extreme change. Not even aircraft lighting at times, which does offer a little bit of infrared, can move up in a range like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, and it's pretty close at this stage, because I think in your report you say it was a luminous spherical object, not visible to the human eye, but visible on your cameras, detected 140 yards, that's like 128 meters, south off the Robert Moses State Park beach shoreline, sitting on the surface of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes.
It was only visible through advanced IR night vision tech with no sound. I mean, how was it propelling itself?
That's a good question. we don't know.
So, Ross, similar occurrences were cited by the three of us and other researchers back in the 2022-2023 period, sometimes multiple orb-like luminous objects.
And that's a good point. This is not the first time. Yeah.
So that's really interesting, Donna. So this is a consistent thing that you guys have been seeing over many years.
It was repeatable. Yeah.
Yes. And this is something, too, that, Russ, I just want to point out that you had a guest on recently from Nellis Air Force Base.
Yep.
That described something along the fence line, just along the perimeter of the Nellis Air Force Base out there.
Yep.
In the Nevada desert, and his description that some of the characteristics agree with what he said as far as his observation.
This is
size-wise,
Joshua Shelton.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I found it fascinating because, in that case, there does appear to be signature management. Whatever these objects are, do you think this object that you saw on the 5th of July, do you think it was moving intelligently? Was it sort of maneuvering in a way that was clearly under some kind of propulsion?
Yes, it was definitely an intelligent control over it. It was changing direction. Like I said, it was stationary, moved to the east a ways, and then it made a turn towards the shoreline and came up over the shoreline.
Right.
Let's explore the implications of that. I mean, I find that fascinating. So there are objects that, going from what Donna's just said, it goes back 2 or 3 years for you guys. You've been seeing these consistently off this area for 3 years minimum. They are capable of stealth signature management. They can hide themselves from the human eye. They're luminous, self-propelled, intelligently guided orbs. Apparently, good qualification, Donna. And how many times would you have seen these objects?
I guess over a period of about we've been out there 4 years now. We've probably seen these objects at least I'd say a dozen times or so.
Mm-hmm.
And have you reported? I mean, I think that in and of itself, this is one of the busiest air flight corridors in the world. I mean, this is the approach to JFK International Airport. I can imagine the FBI has got every interest in ensuring the safety of flight space and making sure there's no national security issues with undetectable stealthy orbs maneuvering in an area that's quite sensitive. Was there an interest? Is this being taken seriously? I mean, I appreciate you can't talk about the work that you've been doing with the FBI, but can you assure us they are taking the work that you're doing seriously?
They're taking it absolutely seriously.
Yeah, there's a genuine interest in this stuff.
And that's now, because back in 2022, early 2023, when we were still involved in phase 1 of the study and seeing some of these types of phenomena, I was researching and calling the Coast Guard, all the various municipal layers, the park government, the police. I was calling Homeland Security, federal as well as state. And what I was getting was, if we were doing something in the area, one, we wouldn't tell you. Other people were saying, well, if we saw that, we would go have our heads examined. And then some people, yeah, exactly. And some people even said, because it was during early 2023, this set of phone calls, some Coast Guard officials said, well, why don't you call Joe Biden? Because he's just been shooting them down, the Chinese balloons.
So that's a real worry, though, isn't it? I mean, what you have as citizen scientists, you have discovered something that is operating with stealth, intelligently controlled, signature management, outside the range of visible light from the human eye, but you say it's a three-dimensional luminous object that is clearly maneuvering intelligently. I mean, I don't understand why that's not a bigger issue publicly.
You would think it would be.
There is quite a bit of attention on it, though.
But the FBI is quite interested in it.
And I think you had 4 multispectral electro-optical infrared cameras, and you were able to eliminate prosaic explanations. It wasn't a buoy or a buoy, as we call them in Australia. It wasn't a seagull. It wasn't birds, bats, boat lighting. It wasn't incoming passenger air traffic. You were able to use and check ADS-B flight tracker to make sure it wasn't that. It wasn't astronomical objects or atmospheric turbulence. It wasn't lens glares, reflections, bioluminescence, mirages. None of those explanations work prosaically.
No, they were quickly ruled out.
And we routinely go through that checklist.
Yeah, and you're always checking both flight tracker and satellite tracker and making sure there's no boats on the water in front of you.
Maritime apps too,
yeah, absolutely.
What do you think they are?
We're not sure at this point. They're certainly bizarre. The reason that they're out there is kind of a mystery. It almost looks like a I don't know, maybe some kind of surveillance
operations, the shores. At first we thought this might have some resemblance. Exactly.
Yes.
We thought that there was some resemblance to the Boogosphere also. Even the way this one object presented itself.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that. I'm going to be interviewing Patrick Jackson, who has a very interesting theory. And I do think there is something to this idea that everywhere around the world, people are seeing these metallic spheres, or in some cases, as you see, luminous orbs. And it is reported consistently that these things are capable of stealth management. They're able to hide themselves from visible light for the human eye. This fascinates me. Is it a security concern for the FBI? Are they taking it seriously?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, this is an ongoing. It's an ongoing thing with them. They're certainly very concerned about it, our communication is it's been ongoing. We pretty much present whatever our findings are.
But Ross,
sorry, Donna.
Is it NHI or something along that?
Well, I mean, the thing that worries me, Don,
partnership testing of technology.
Well, let's work through that. Yeah, I mean, if it's NHI, that's the option that I think is possibly the least concerning. If it's an enemy, if it's a foreign adversary with this kind of technology that's capable of ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, that can only be seen on hyperspectral, infrared, or thermal cameras, then that's a real worry. It implies that some foreign adversary has a capability that I suspect we don't have.
Unless it truly is ours, and everyone is just mum's the word.
Why would they test technology like that on a beach in front of John and Jerry Tedesco and Donna Leonardo? I mean, seriously, you guys.
John worked with the FAA early on and the Coast Guard. To get the radar permission to put together the 2 radars that in operation. That tipped layers of government off that such a study, there would be people on the beach after hours in the quiet of the night for an extended period, serious researchers who are going to be eyeing the sky, looking for UAP or similar objects. So to me, my background as an investigator, that would be the perfect time for me to put a ruse into place and test technology. That's just one idea. I'm not saying that I'm leaning in that.
I mean, the problem with that theory, though, Donna, is
the guinea pigs.
Would they really want their technology demonstrated as we're doing right now? If you're the US and you've developed luminous spherical orbs that can only be seen on hyperspectral or thermal or infrared cameras, would you want that being revealed by John and Jerry Tedesco and Donna on the...
We figured it out. There are so many questions, and even Skywatcher, all the other groups haven't figured it out entirely either. And maybe they're using what is coming forward to one day cloak whatever the
Yeah,
technology is entirely. And wouldn't that be
I,
a great technology for the U.S. to have?
Yeah,
It's just an idea.
I think the bigger
the one problem is that then nobody told the FBI about it.
Yeah,
and the other,
exactly.
and the bigger
Or
issue
I
here,
can tell you the FAA. My sources in the
Yeah.
FAA don't know anything about these so-called authorized research drones that the White House has referred to.
But remember compartmentalization. As an investigator, I learned early on. You were in the beginning. I was told, "Go here and tell me what you see." I only knew one piece of it because they wanted to lead me with breadcrumbs, and that's what they do in the investigative world. They
Sure.
don't tell you everything. They lead you to see what you say back, one so they could be sure you're where you are supposed to be, and they also don't. They want to compartmentalize the operation, so that's something that
I
it's in the
think
back of
the
my mind
yeah,
also.
I think the bigger picture too here is that this is presented worldwide.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, this is multiple countries are involved. And
that's
so
the
forth.
most key.
You
It's
know, I mean,
everywhere.
it's very difficult to dismiss it, even if it is if it's a certain entity that's doing it, whether it's U.S. or otherwise.
And then why? You know,
Yeah, exactly.
in all these other places, why?
Well, I've got to congratulate you because what you've got there is multiple corroborated, multiple source data evidence of something truly anomalous. Because I think what you record is it goes up onto the beach, that same object, and using some clever daytime research, you've been able to figure out that the object's size, it's quite a small object. How large do you think the object was based on your...
Between between 1 to 3 feet in diameter, probably closer to 1.5 to 2 feet.
And there's no noise at any stage. You're not hearing a propeller. You're not hearing
None
a turbine. There's nothing.
None at all.
Nothing at all. It's completely quiet.
Could it be a balloon? Dumb question, I know, but could it be a balloon that was just gently blowing ashore?
No, the balloon would be kind of bouncing all over the place with those.
Yeah, they'd
winds.
be carried by
It
water
would be
currents.
it would be
too.
a steady linear course.
Yeah, and this thing was independent of any kind of wave action, water
Wind
currents,
action,
that
yeah.
sort of thing. The wind, you know,
It also was self
it
luminous.
was counter to any of those.
Yeah, it was
things.
giving off its own light. I mean, a lot of light.
You're exactly.
I don't understand if it's self-luminous, that means it's got energy somewhere inside it. How could its thermal signature be lower than the ocean?
Exactly, and that's what we've been questioning. It's since the beginning, we've had a very difficult time observing any of these objects with the thermal camera with long wave infrared. And in this case, we believe that the only reason why we did capture some kind of a signature is because the sea spray itself actually had a cooling effect. But these objects, I mean, they were a fraction of a degree cooler than the water.
Yeah, it was a very small difference.
That's how we were able to differentiate that from everything
I mean,
else.
anything in human technology that generates energy like that would necessarily be warmer than the seawater around it, surely.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, you can see boat lights out there, especially at the distance that this thing was from the shoreline. I mean, the camera that we use is a high resolution thermal camera with a 30 times optical zoom. You know, this stuff would have been very, very easy to pick
Yeah, we
up.
would make out the thermal signature of a boat hull.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you can well
So let's keep on going because this wait, there's more from the Tedescos. We've got 29th of August, another incident took place, and this is the one that really made me fall off my chair. Let's call it the Black Triangles incident. Talk me through it. What's happening?
Okay, so this occurred about probably about 4:14 p.m. I just had gotten off work. I met John at his place. We were in the RV running tests on our equipment because we was planning on going out that weekend.
August 29th. This one.
Yes, August 29th.
Exactly, and this was Eastern time, and it was
Mhm.
we had just upgraded some of the spectrum analyzers on the RV, on the mobile lab, and
Can
we
you
had
tell
them.
the audience what a spectrum analyzer is?
Yes, so it's this is particularly used for radio frequencies. So we can scan out, we can look at anything from, from about maybe a low frequency of 1 megahertz all the way on up the spectrum to as high as 26 gigahertz. So this was scanning and going through these test routines, and we noticed that we had a signature there that was well presented, very unusual for the area, and We kind of collaborated that with the some radar data that we had. Radar seemed to align with what we had on the spectrum analyzer.
Where was this object?
It was in the south west sky, moving in an easterly direction.
Over land in Long Island or over
It
sea?
was the object itself was Long Island is relatively narrow. You know, I think we're only about 8 to 10 miles
Yes.
across, and the object we believe was over the water at that point, simply because of the distance that we were able to capture on the radar. It presented in a cloud layer, exited a cloud layer, produced a signature.
Let me say one thing about the cloud layer. This was a single thunderstorm cloud in the sky. It was nice. The weather was great. Everything else was, we had cumulus
Mostly
clouds
clear.
out there, mostly clear. And this was a dark cumulonimbus cloud. It was a very dark thunderstorm cloud, and it looked out of place when we look at it.
As a matter of fact, it was the only one we had present.
Do you think, I'll say it because I think you guys being scientists are too careful. Donna knows what I'm going to ask. Do you think that cloud might have been a fake cloud?
So Gary Nolan, he came out with us for a field study one night. He told us, watch for the cloud formations. And John Jerry and I saw one really nasty looking, it looked like 10 motherships situated, oriented north to south one night when we were doing the field study. And I believe this was early on in 2022. And it also was a clear night, but it just looked out of place. It was dark, there were lighted portions, but it was just so humongous. And we always remember that Gary had said, look at the cloud formations.
Yeah, we definitely had some oddities out there.
I've had multiple people have sent me imagery. There's quite famous ones on YouTube where you see what looks like a cloud, and it's shaped just ever so slightly like a disc or a craft, and it's got the fluffy edges of a cloud, and then it suddenly maneuvers and just moves away. And I sometimes wonder whether something or someone is using clouds as a form of stealth or signature management.
That's a possibility. The other thing I would mention is, and we look at that. We look to see if it is a cloud. We use shortwave infrared, and which does pick up moisture. And it'll actually differentiate the precipitation in the cloud or the moisture in the cloud, so we know it is a real cloud.
What did you do? Did you do that with this cloud that night at the 29th of August?
Exactly. And this is something that we could determine that it wasn't moisture content. It wasn't moisture.
So you were able to show it wasn't a classic cumulonimbus cloud, even though it looked like one.
Yeah, and the object was well hidden for a short period of time, actually relatively long period of time before it emerged from the cloud body.
So Donna's probably right. This is probably some kind of stealth management, some kind of intelligent stealth management by something.
It's a possibility.
Possibly.
It could very well be.
Okay, talk me through it. This is where it gets really interesting. Talk me through what happens next.
Okay, so we watched an object emerge from the cloud on radar. John and I quickly got went to get our binoculars, or we have what's called a vortex binoculars. These are high-end binoculars, great optical glass. John had began looking at the cloud with those, and he told me, we both went outside. I was trying to find one of the other cameras, scrambling, trying to get one of the other cameras going. And John said there's a black object moving between the cloud, and then it was emerging from the cloud. So he gave me I found one of I grabbed my cell phone and videotaped it while John was looking at it, and we switched. And what we saw was something, originally it resembled a very black triangular or delta shape to it, or bell shape to it. It had that delta shape or a triangular shape.
And was this showing up on radar at this stage, that delta shape?
Yes, we did have a radar target.
We tracked it on radar. On radar, it appears to separate into two more objects, which is quite interesting.
Now, you guys sneakily, I giggled when I saw it. I thought, oh my goodness me, the Tedescos are deleting stuff. You found something interesting in the frequency, and you can't talk about it, can you? Has the FBI asked you not to talk about it?
Yes, that's the sensitive part. there was
Yeah.
quite a bit of interesting signals. But I mean, that goes into signal intelligence with the.
Okay, I'm going to throw it at you. Just
Can't talk
let
about
me guess. 1.6 by any chance?
You've been talking to people.
No comment.
No, it just fascinates me. The one is it 1.6 gigahertz or megahertz? I'm trying to remember. Gigahertz, I
Yeah,
think.
it's gigahertz. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's I know with Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah, I know the 1.6 seems to come up quite a bit. There's also a 3 gigahertz signal supposedly.
There's a few others. Too.
Yeah,
We'll
some,
leave it at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are some stuff there.
No, but it's interesting. It's such a consistent thing. And I'm really interested because all around the world, people are contacting me talking about 1.6 in particular, but also about 3 gigahertz. And nobody's explaining it, but often it's an indicator. And as you say, it was without giving away the frequency that you detected a frequency anomaly on your spectrum analyzer. You saw it there. Then you got it on your radar. And then when you visually observed it with the binoculars, the vortex binoculars, you then corroborated that object on the radar as well. So you've got 4 separate data points to corroborate something anomalous.
Yeah,
exactly.
And a very, very clear visual representation of what was on the radar. The interesting thing, I will say that we had observed flights of commercial aircraft at the same time through these lenses, these very clear lenses that we use. The commercial aircraft was extremely detailed in focus. You could even make out the writing on the aircraft. The object itself, no.
It was always slightly out of focus for some reason.
It was poorly presented.
Okay, and you gents would understand, I'm sure Donna as well, that the Alcubierre drive principles,
Yes.
that essentially if something is coming, if it's warping space-time, there's allegedly some kind of plasma or some kind of distortion field around the object. Do you think that might explain what you were seeing?
That's a possibility.
That's a very strong possibility.
It's something we're looking into. There was also there was a shimmer around it. Definitely a possibility of some kind of field effect around it.
Right. And this is something that we're actually working with another group in Canada that had just gotten a paper published.
There are 2 other engineers
on the Alcubierre principle with these objects, which we believe is a very, very strong possibility. And it kind of explains the visual presentation of these objects, is also the radar anomalies that we've been getting, the distinct interference patterns.
So you've presented on this data. I think you recently gave evidence at a Northwest US MUFON 2025 symposium in October. What was the reception? What's the scientific reception? Are you getting good peer review? Are people trying to find prosaic explanations for what you're offering here?
Nothing that was addressed on the objects we had seen, but there was a good group of people that were invited there. I mean, they had Dr. Avi Loeb on there. They had Dr. Rudy Schild, I think his name is, Frederick Udall, Dr. Keith Taylor. Of course, he presented with us, but it was a nice international representation of researchers.
What I love about this is, just in the last week, of course, we've had Dr. Beatrice Villarol's extraordinarily interesting work with the geostationary orbit transients that have now been accepted for peer review. You, gentlemen, are in a position, I think, to publish. Are you looking to publish in a peer-reviewed journal the work that you've done?
Yes.
We have 2 peer-reviewed published data sets when we were originally out, and then we published a paper on these on these interference patterns we were getting on radar and these long delay echoes, and we were suggesting the possibility of an Alcubierre type warp drive as a possibility.
The thing that intrigues me about this 29th August incident, the black triangle coming out of the cumulonimbus cloud, or apparently a cumulonimbus cloud, is you also reported anomalies with your radar tracking. Can you talk me through what happened?
Yes. So, along with this report, this is the radar data that we got was very clear. for this particular object. Most of the time, it's not. We get anomalies. We get a very, very strong interference pattern. Sometimes radar, what looks like radar jamming, and very, very distorted reflections.
I apologize, I got it wrong. It's actually the spectrum analyzer that you suffered distortions on, isn't it? You were getting electrical interference on your spectrum analyzer.
Yes.
Were they anomalous? I mean, obviously, there's a frequency that we're all aware of that indicates this kind of anomalous phenomena. Were you getting some kind of interference pattern, were you?
Yes, it's with the spectrum analyzers. The interesting thing about this particular anomaly is that it seems to be a ground, some kind of a ground reflection. I can't say, too much more than that, other than, something that it was maybe not so directional. It's definitely an oddity, something that a radio spectrum engineer would have picked out right away.
Right, and when you used the radar, you actually used two radars, didn't you? Did that help you triangulate? Were you able to triangulate at all?
Absolutely. It's with the two different scan geometries that we use. The vertical, we can get an exact altitude measurement. Of course, with the X-band radar, we can in a 360 degree loop or rotation, we can determine its directivity, and of course its course of travel.
So this is broad daylight. This is 4:39 p.m. You're seeing on radar a slow-moving solid radar return, and it's coming up as a white mass on your display. There's echo trails, which means the object's moving. Did you get a speed?
The object's speed was just over what was it, Joe? 200. I think we clocked it in at around just over 200 miles per hour at that point.
I'm not sure. I know it's on the document. I can't. Yeah, it's around. I thought it was it was 100. It might have been 200 miles per hour. 220, maybe 220.
Yeah, it was just over 220, maybe 225.
But this isn't a balloon, basically. It's
not a kite.
We that's something we had looked into. Is we checked the air currents at that elevation, and I think the wind speed was probably about 14 miles per hour.
Yeah, between 14 and 16 miles per hour at that point.
I love you guys. Every time I ask a question that might provide a prosaic explanation, you're 10 steps ahead of me. You've really done your homework. I just love it. It's great. You basically see these things on these Vortex 5000 binoculars, and you spot very clearly a black triangle. Can you estimate the size of the object based on the distance that you were able to triangulate?
That was something that was more difficult. Really couldn't determine. I don't think we were able to determine the exact size.
Yeah, that's we have some estimations that it could have been, it could have been the size of a large automobile at that point. It's but generally, anything I'd say that was within about 20 feet in diameter.
But the clearly important thing is that there's nothing that can be explained using the ADS-B data. There's no flights that are nearby that could explain this object?
Not with this object.
No.
There was no correlation at all.
So what was it? I mean, you're seeing a black triangle hundreds of feet in the air.
Right.
I mean, what is it?
Yeah, this is the big mystery, and it's we're not the only ones that observed this either. There was another observation further north, up in New York, I
think it was a couple of days later.
Actually a day later.
Yeah.
And somebody else had basically saw or observed something very, very similar.
Actually, he stopped. He pulled off from. He was in traffic. He pulled off to see it. This person. And he said it was a black object that hovered. It appeared to be hovering above a tree canopy, and then when he drove over to go see it, get a closer look, it had disappeared.
Right, and visually, it definitely resembled exactly what we were seeing at that point.
So let me summarize here. You've got what looks like initially a cumulonimbus storm cloud.
Mm-hmm.
You're able with your radar to say that it's not a storm cloud because it doesn't have rain in it. There's no moisture in it that the radar can bounce off. So while it looks like a cumulonimbus cloud, it ain't.
Yeah, well, it would have been a very strange one.
And as you've been able to get a signal on your spectrum analyzer indicating, which is, without giving away the signal, it's essentially indicative of anomalousness.
And actually, this is on 2 spectrum analyzers.
2 spectrum analyzers.
Yes.
So that's for the debunkers. You've double corroborated it.
Yes.
You then turn on your dual band marine radars and you are corroborating a radar return, not only on the cloud not having moisture in it, but also a black object that turns out to be triangular shaped coming out of that cloud.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And
Redundancy is key.
Right. And with these radars, with X-band radar, we have at this particular frequency, we have a very, very short wavelength. So if you wanted to track like biomass, birds, that sort of thing, by setting up the sensitivity of the radar, you could definitely track it. So we can see moisture in the cloud layers. If there's a significant amount of moisture, a storm cloud, that sort of thing, we would have picked that up right away.
And that wasn't showing up on the radar.
No.
And what I do like about all three of you is you are always looking for a prosaic explanation. You're not woo. You're not inclined to default to the UFO aliens explanation. But the interesting thing about this object is, even though you're able to zoom in with your vortex binoculars on an aircraft that's at 19,000 feet and see it clearly with those binoculars, when you zoom in on this black triangle, you can't get focus.
Not at all. No. Not at all. And that's the key difference there.
Well, all we could tell is that it looked like it changed its orientation in flight because the edges would change. The edges looked like they would change. It was almost like it was morphing, but I kind of think we kind of feel it was changing its orientation.
Right. And if there is something to this Alcubierre principle, this gravitational lensing that's occurring, I mean, this would be a really solid explanation as far as why these things are not well observed.
I know somebody had mentioned that we were making assumptions on that, but we have our opinions based on several data points. It's not just a single data point.
Right, and this is something that it's a discovery over many, many different observations.
Mm-hmm. And just talk me through it. When you say gravitational lensing, what are you actually physically seeing through the binoculars?
So there appears to be some kind of a pattern of distortion around the object,
almost like a shimmer,
right? And sometimes this can be also be picked up in a thermal camera.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see there are definitely differences from the environment around it, temperature differences. The mechanism for that, I'm not quite sure, because it doesn't. If you looked at a plane with the same signature, you wouldn't see anything that would be remotely close to what these things are producing.
Can I ask you this? The moment that the object moved out of the cloud,
mm-hmm.
is there any connection between when that object made that movement and when you switched on your dual band radar?
Yeah, so we actually tracked the object. We tracked the cloud, believe it or not, and we could see there was a physical manifestation within the cloud itself, and that's the one thing that got our interest. And we walked outside, we were looking up, and we said, "This is the only cloud that looked different from everything else out there," and it was in the same location. It pretty much agreed. It lined up with the radar target, and over a period of minutes, this object started to emerge from,
it didn't take
from
long.
The cloud layer.
It didn't take long before we saw something.
So basically, the moment you switched on your dual band marine radar and started scanning that cloud, that's when there was a reaction.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. This just gets better and better. And when you watch the object depart the cloud, it's flying at at least 100 to 200 miles an hour. So it's flying faster than the wind. It's clearly under some kind of intelligent directional control and propulsion. Do you hear any engine, or is it too far away for you to hear any?
We should have heard something. It was completely quiet though.
Right.
Yeah.
And living as close to the airport as you know, this is my residence, and you know, I'm literally 2 miles from the local airport there. It's MacArthur Airport. So you know, I see aircraft coming in and out all the time, and I've seen plenty of them to realize when they present sound wise, you know, the distances, what they look like, you know, and various different presentations. This object certainly didn't align itself with anything prosaic.
This stood out as very strange.
Okay, so we've done 2 objects now in your list. There's one more to go. But clearly, something demonstrably anomalous in each of these examples is operating intelligently and appearing to be conducting. You're looking at it, but it's looking at you. It's doing ISR. It's surveilling you.
That's the interesting thing, because the fact that it appeared where we were, and the fact that sometimes they seem to appear directly in front of us, or where we move our location, is quite interesting.
And Jerry and I were just speaking before this meeting how sometimes he'll have an impulse to look, and I have had an impulse to open my eyes sometimes in the middle of the night, and sometimes it's like we're being summoned, and we just instantaneously look and see.
Now,
So
people might scoff at what you're saying, Donna, but I've actually seen that happen. I've had people who are purportedly of psionic ability say to me, "You're going to see something. You're going to see something tonight, or you're going to see something this evening, and it's going to look like this," and it's happened. Do you think that whatever the phenomenon is, it's manifesting itself to you?
That's a really interesting.
Could be communicating.
Yeah, because each one of us have had, what we call this hitchhiker effect. Each one of us has seen something, after being out there a while.
And this predates the study, though, but is more so now since the study.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the other thing too
does that not freak you out a little bit, Donna? The idea of these objects following you home?
Absolutely
yes.
not. One time you said on the show when John and Jerry were showing you a video, was that Donna that I heard saying, "I hope we don't get taken"? No, we were out there saying, "We want you to come here. We want, I want to be with them when they have another close encounter, and we want to be taken. We want that. We want that experience, because what better way to research this phenomena than to become a part of it like that?"
Well, make sure you
But
bring
we're
back
not scared.
make sure you bring back John and Jerry the plans for the Alcubia.
Yeah, John and I have a different attitude. We don't want to be.
That's not true. John was very brave. He also wanted to be taken.
Okay, so let's go to the 4th case, 4th of July, and I guess a lot of people, as soon as they hear the date 4th of July, they're going to say, "Look, this was fireworks, or it was some kind of Chinese lantern." But on the 4th of July, Sharon Tedesco, whose wife was that? Yours, John, or Jerry?
That's Jerry. That's me.
Yeah. Sharon saw a large luminous object. Tell me more. What happened?
Yes, this was in the I think it was the towards the southwestern sky. We look at a fireworks display out there. It's towards it's a Farmingville area of Long Island. It was probably close to 8 o'clock at night. She saw a light that at first she thought it was a firework, but then the light was heading towards it, coming in our direction. And she tapped me on the shoulder and she says, "Doesn't that look weird?" So I looked at it and says, "It's probably a plane." I waited until it got a little closer. Didn't notice any navigation lights. Noticed it was a very red, fiery red. As it got closer, we took our cameras out. Both I took out my cell phone. I have a good camera system on the cell phone. My wife took out her digital camera, and we both filmed it as it went more over towards the zenith, but off to the right of us where we were parked.
And so this is over land in Farmingville, New York?
Yes, this was over land. And
now, just to devil's advocate, I think you actually acknowledged in the report that you wrote to me, you acknowledged very candidly that there was a fireworks display at Farmingville, New York.
Yes.
Could this have been fireworks or a Chinese lantern?
No, this was self-propelled, it was, the lighting on it was as bright as probably brighter than an airliner. An airliner, you have 600-watt lights on it. This is probably brighter than 600 watts, but the light, the light didn't hurt your eyes. But it was a bright red object with an orange interior. The center of it was more white. As it went overhead, I saw what looked like borders or divisions on the bottom of it, which I couldn't quite make out.
You described some kind of structure underneath.
Yes, it looked like it was a divided structure. Probably some parts more were embossed or they were raised. So
Any noise?
No noise at all. It was completely quiet.
How high was it off the ground? Would you have expected to have heard it if it was propellers or a turbine?
I estimated it to be between 500 to 1,000 feet off the ground, probably close.
So
to
you should have heard it if it was props.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this was probably about the size of probably a small car, the size of a car.
Was it cylindrical?
It had an oval shape to it when it went over, but as it passed us, it assumed a round, very spherical shape. And in the videos and in the photographs, if you look at those, you could see that it was emitting some kind of vapor, trailing vapor as opposite the direction it was headed. It was headed north towards another fireworks display. It made a slight turn to the right, and then we lost sight of it. And then what was the interesting thing is the same thing repeated again with another object or the same object taking the same path just minutes later.
So what was it? What's your theory about what it was?
I have no idea. It was very strange looking. It did look like some of the fireball-like orbs we were seeing off the coast from time to time. Right. But this one I had a much closer view of it.
Right. I think there was another witness further north also.
Yes.
That saw the same or similar object.
So I did reach out to the FBI. Of course, they have a report. We did talk. They had gathered a report from New Fork, which tracked another witnesses further up north, upstate New York, which would have been the same path this object took going north. It was an area called Burnt Hills, New York.
Can you just explain to me, I know why, but just for the benefit of our audience, why is the FBI, as a federal law enforcement agency, taking such a close interest in the issue of unidentified objects hovering in secure airspace in and around New York, New Jersey? What's the issue with the FBI?
Their primary issue is national security. Is it a safety concern? Who's flying them? And the fact is, nobody knows who's flying them, including the FBI.
Right, and it's still their day jobs are still domestic,
And it's funny because that's the thing that I don't understand is why the news media in the main has bought into the explanation that all of this was just hysteria. I noticed that a well-placed article in a stooge journal, the Wall Street Journal, recently suggested that the whole drones flap was just a hysterical reaction to known aircraft. And the same line's been peddled for all of the sightings across Western Europe, Denmark, Norway, France, Germany. There's been pushing of this line that essentially the public's just got hysterical and misguidedly seen things that weren't real, when in fact they're just perfectly explainable as prosaic objects, aircraft, balloons, drones. In summation, what you're saying here is you've picked up 3 highly anomalous objects that are not conforming to prosaic explanations. Agree?
Exactly. Absolutely agree.
Obviously the intensity of the objects that were being seen over New Jersey in particular in that period, October, November last year into January, February this year, the intensity and frequency of those objects has lessened. But is it fair to say that you're still seeing anomalous objects in and around the New Jersey, Long Island area?
Yes, and there are other reports as well, especially in
Mhm.
the New Jersey area.
Yeah,
Not from
absolutely.
us. So it is ongoing. It's hard to tell what they're seeing right now. Is it the same type of sky phenomena as last year and earlier this year? I'm not sure about
Yeah.
that.
And one of the things that fascinated me with the Europe objects, and I've spoken directly to people in the security services in Norway, and they've told me that they were not able to see where these objects came from or went to. Often they literally just appeared over a secure civil aviation area, so like an aerodrome or a major runway. Is that what you're seeing? Are you able to track these objects to and from?
That's very consistent. Most of the time when we see these objects, they just appear. They suddenly appear. We don't see the source of where they're coming from or where they're going.
Which
They seem to appear
implies
and then disappear.
Mhm.
which implies very strongly, doesn't it, that they're using this stealth management that you've referred to earlier. They're able to, in some cases, keep themselves off radar and out of sight of the visible spectrum for the human eye.
We believe that. Yeah.
Exactly. And the other thing too is, again, to go back to this, differentiating, what we're seeing. I think folks just put everything together. Whether it's these drone-like objects, and they would seem to have a time frame when they present in some cases, and then we have these orb-looking objects that seem to be present all the time. They're just out there. And that's why our rationale, our reasoning was that, that this, maybe this is some kind of a surveillance operation, of these drones, because
All
they
of the
do
drones of these objects.
of the objects,
Yeah.
drones being used for these objects, and of course there's some stealthy technology for the drones too that we don't really understand.
And that
You know?
raises questions about who the source of these drone-like objects are, and it could be something out there.
Congressional Airport on Long Island, Eastern End. You had John and Jerry on your show right after that mini flap. So somebody was sending up Sikorsky helicopters because one came very close to my house. I've never heard such a thunderous noise before. It was in the midst of that flap. John and Jerry had been out at Congressional Airport just a few days before, and I went to the app to check ADSB to see what was in the vicinity, and I didn't see anything yet. But then by the next day, when I was able to check again, I was able to confirm that what I saw and heard. And I opened my front door, and I felt like I could reach out and touch it. And what I saw was, it looked like a moving train because it was that massive. And I saw a red and green light on the back, but I saw this big, to me, I would say it was round, white, brilliant light on the front. But it was so big, but it was so close and so thunderous. And when I did some research on YouTube, what do black helicopters look like at night? What do they sound like? I was kind of disheartened because I was hoping that that big round orbular type of phenomena I saw on the front, towards the front, was really the helicopter chasing this orb. But as it turns out, and I didn't have my night vision camera. I was just looking with my eyes. What it ended up being potentially, I think, is that people say that these black helicopters, they do put on, sometimes when they're working together, one or two, they'll put on the front lights, and then it will have that rounded, very bright look. But the thing is, my main point about this is Gabreski Airport was concerned enough to have black helicopters up. And this was right around the same time as the New Jersey flap.
Right, and at that time they had a large number of those.
And this
incursions.
helicopter came from
17
Gabreski
plus,
Airport.
yeah.
I was able to track, it came from Gabreski Airport, went down to the Atlantic Ocean, a little bit out east from where we are now, and then it headed back towards like north of my area, so close to where we are now, then headed south, went right by one of the main streets near my home, which is why I could hear it so well and looked out and it looked like I could reach out and touch it. It was so massive. But I couldn't see the black part, right? I couldn't see the shell of the airplane. I only saw lights. And then it went out east and went again to the Atlantic Ocean, and then went near Don's house. It went to around MacArthur Airport. And I don't know what it did then. It circled back someplace else. But something was going on, and it's not just, as you said, it's Europe, it's New Jersey.
Right,
it's
and just to add to
everywhere.
that is when we had the observation with the black triangle. we had ADS-B data that showed a number of Sikorsky aircraft tracking along the coast during that time that we observed the Black Triangle. Interestingly enough, when we went to do a replay, those aircraft were no longer there. They weren't recorded, and
So you saw them in real time on ADS-B, but they were taken off the data subsequently.
You have the data stream later, recorded data stream later. They were no longer there.
It appeared that it might have been trying to follow this thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Quite a few.
Look, the plot just gets thicker and thicker. I mean, the thing is, I've learned now not to accept the official assurances that this whole drone flap was hysteria. Because from the evidence that you guys are collecting, it's quite clear there is an ongoing, legitimate scientific mystery. And full marks to the three of you for pushing for answers. I'm so delighted to hear that the FBI is taking this seriously. Can I ask you both, without giving away essentially the details, if you like, of the FBI investigation, what do you think they're going to do with this data that you're providing them?
Oh boy, I know they're trying to find answers. they're trying to understand what.
Yeah, we know they're serious about finding answers to it.
You know, I'm not quite sure that there is a full understanding as far as what it is, what they're dealing with. I think that's the part of the problem.
So why are we being gaslit? Why are the public being told that they were hysterical, that these were prosaically explainable objects, that it was just nonsense, these were drones, or they were people responding to speculation? Why are we being gaslit like that when it's quite clear the authorities still have no idea what these objects were or are?
But I think the public helped make that happen. It played right into government's hands. They want to secret things. They don't want things out in the public, potentially, no matter what it is, whether it's NHI or a secret program of some kind. And so by the public's giving attention to people's sightings, and then more sightings, and then the local governments send out vehicles, and then the federal government sends out vehicles, and then the government is able to sit back and say, well, see, it's just a flap, a nonsense flap, and the public's going crazy. That's just a regular helicopter. That's just a regular plane. And so the whole notoriety of these situations plays into the government's hand, and then they could sit back and say it was nothing, and then we get no further into finding out what it could have been.
I'll tell you, I think it's very insulting to the public to accuse them of being that stupid not to be able to recognize a plane. New Jersey has a lot of air traffic. People see air traffic all the time. They didn't just suddenly become confused about what they were seeing in the skies.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's exactly what a policeman from New Jersey said to me only 2 days ago. I asked a local policeman in New Jersey, "Are you still seeing anomalous objects?" And he went, "Absolutely. They've never gone away."
And they've been frustrated. The sheriff's departments over there were frustrated that they weren't being heard.
The government was ridiculing the size of a car, right? We heard that a lot about New Jersey. Can they differentiate between something that is bigger or smaller than the size of a car?
If it's low enough, yeah.
Yeah, and there's certain reference markers too. In some cases, I know there's a sheriff out in
or Nebraska, Grooms, Chris Grooms.
Yeah, Chris Grooms that was able to reference a building where this object seemed to be very, very in close proximity, and he was able to give a size and so forth of the object. Was
there anything about that building that was distinctive? Because that was my next question. I was going to wrap up and ask, are you able to find a nexus between where these objects appear to be conducting their ISR, their intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, and anything on the ground? Because, of course, during the New Jersey flap, it was the Picatinny Arsenal where obviously a lot of ordnance is stored, including, I guess, quite possibly nuclear weapons. Is there something on the ground that links to whatever these objects might be taking an interest in?
Well, the interesting thing is Long Island has Brookhaven National Laboratory, and this is the second biggest nuclear accelerator ring test facility in the United States, besides the one in California.
So where the Black Triangle was, how far away was Brookhaven?
Within 4 miles.
Yeah.
Wow.
4 miles, yes, absolutely.
Interesting coincidence. So, guys, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you on behalf of my producer, colleague, and friend Megan Orada, who was in Santorini, Greece, when she saw an orb recently that she told me about on the latest Q&A. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your take on what Megan describes of what she saw. Do you have a view or a response?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
We were fascinated by it. We actually heard that broadcast.
Right, and then when the way she described it, it sounds like exactly what one of our researchers observed, not too far from his house, and he actually had a recording of it, which we presented to Megan. We had sent it over to her, and I believe that she looked at it and said that it looks very, very similar to what she observed.
So, describe to me what your colleague saw and what you think Megan's seeing. Like, what is it? Is this something similar to the luminous orb you've just told us about?
Yes. This was. We actually had him. He actually called us one night, and he was super excited about something, and we asked him what was going on. He says, "Can I come over right now to show you guys something?" We said, "Sure." We met at the Nightcrawler. And he brought the memory stick of his IR binoculars, and what he filmed was an object that he says it looked like he's an astronomy buff, so he looks at the sky often. He saw 3 stars in the sky, and he thought they were stars. He says 2 of them scattered, 1 dropped, and the one that dropped headed towards his house. And he says before he knew it, it was just above the treetops. He ran as quickly as he could to get his night vision binoculars, and he filmed it going across the tree lines.
So is he seeing it with his own grade 1A, A1 eyeballs, or is it only visible with the...
He was able to see this with his eyes and of course with the IR camera.
So just like Megan did, she saw it with her eyeballs hovering over the ocean at Santorini. And some people have described to me that these orbs, they've almost got like a yolk, a kind of a middle sphere in the middle of them.
Right. And it's a perfect sphere too. There's a very defined outline around this object. It has it's not well defined, but it gives off white light, the way she described it. And the video that we have with what he had recorded, the object basically had moved, like Gerald said, between trees, and you could see him rushing around, running off to the side of his house, trying to capture this thing, and you could see as it was moving across the sky, and then suddenly the object just faded out. It completely faded out. It was like it wasn't even there.
And interestingly, he wanted to film. There was a full moon out. He wanted to film the moon to show us that that it wasn't the moon. That it was 2 different objects.
Right.
And this thing was almost the size of the moon.
Right. If you were observing the full moon at that time,
yes.
If visually, it looked almost the same size.
Yeah.
So you can't think of any prosaic explanation for what either Megan saw or for what your colleague saw.
No, and she's seeing pretty much what we've been seeing off the coast of Long Island, and that's pretty common, is these orb-like objects.
Well, that just underlines that what we are seeing, what we're describing, what people are seeing all over the world is truly an international phenomenon. It's not something localized.
Absolutely. And like I said, and some of these objects will present in such a way that they're well defined. They give off a almost like a kaleidoscope appearance of color, and you'll see very defined blues and reds in here. And we're looking at that and we're saying we believe it's some kind of gravitational lensing that's causing it. Where as the object rotates towards you, its blue shifts, and it rotates away, it goes to a red shift.
So you're implying you think it's NHI.
That's what we believe. Either that or some very sophisticated technology maybe reverse engineering.
Nobody's sharing it.
But it's certainly anomalous what you're seeing.
Yes, absolutely. This is not something. I mean, you'll see a glinting star, that sort of thing. A shimmer to it, but nothing that presents as these objects do with this incredible chroma display.
Yeah, it's a full chromatic display of colors. That's rotating. They rotate.
And do you think? I just wonder. Do you think it was entirely coincidence that Megan and her husband are the ones that saw it? Do you think it sought her out because it knows who she is and what she's been doing? I mean, am I pulling a long bow here?
Well, we are seeing a pattern of people who take an interest in this getting, whether it's imprinted on them or whatever way they maintain this psychical link.
And it sounds like it was relatively close to I mean, the way she described it, it sounds like the object was, within a quarter of a mile from where she was viewing it.
It's intriguing, isn't it? That idea that the phenomenon may well be trying to twig the awareness, the consciousness of people that are taking an interest in it.
Could very well be.
Could be some kind of entanglement. I don't know.
Well, it raises more questions than it answers. Donna Leonardo, John and Jerry Tedesco of the Nightcrawler team, I take my hat off to you guys once again for providing us with compelling, insightful, corroborated data that I think adds to the mystery of whatever these phenomena are. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ross.
Thanks for your coverage.
We appreciate it.
Before we go, please don't forget to send in your questions for our weekly question and answer. You can email us at realitycheck@newsnationnow.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
The government says they don't know the origin of these drones.
There are still a lot of questions about not just what they are, but also how to respond to them.
These mysterious objects aren't just flying anymore, they are even in the ocean.
The skies are not classified.
They could be from the oceans.
We are not alone.
We're definitely not alone.
If the American public knew how deep this lie went, we would have a crisis on our hands.
What is lurking in the depths of the oceans? Explorers have reported anomalous sightings in the water since the 11th century.
I think it is something that is probably reconstructed on the spot. Not surprised that we have found a crashed UFO in the Baltic Sea.
Soaring above it.
I saw something strange, a tic-tac incident.
It was something that couldn't be explained, and then they saw it enter the water.
What we saw, we have nothing close to it. I told my buddy I wanted to fly it.
Members of the US government are blowing the whistle. What you're saying is that these objects underwater, these bases underwater, they are non-human. You're clear about that?
That would be my belief, yes, sir.
And are we being sabotaged from exploring it? Are you now saying there is a portal, a tear in the sky?
Our GPS, with the broadcasting, what our ADS-B data we call it, keeps disappearing. We keep disappearing.
We now have more evidence that there is something strange in the Catalina area.
Tonight, is the water something to be feared?
Sat there the rest of the night with a gun in my hand waiting for something to come creeping out of the water.
We've seen some crazy stuff today.
Or does it hold the answers to the great UFO mystery? Do you think we are being lied to by the government of the United States?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do.
In this special edition of Reality Check with Ross Coulthart, underwater UFOs. G'day and welcome to a special edition of Reality Check on NewsNation. I'm your host, Ross Coulthart, reporting to you from Australia. In fact, near one of my favourite Sydney beaches, Coogee. Los Angeles is 7,500 miles in that direction. I've reported extensively for NewsNation on unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAPs, that great existential question, are we alone? In this special hour, we're turning our focus from the skies to the depths of the ocean across this planet, to another great mystery, unidentified submerged objects. We're taking you underwater. With reports for you from an explorer in the Baltic Sea, showcasing footage never before seen on television. plus a correspondent in Southern California taking us on camera into depths like never before, with a UFO witness sharing mysterious video and never-before-heard stories about what's happening off the coast of the United States. A bombshell new report and videos from a prominent UFO reporting app, and we hear from a retired Navy Rear Admiral and a congressman who believes there is so much more to this planet than we understand. We start by turning to Dennis Asberg, a Swedish deep dive explorer and co-founder of the Ocean X team, renowned for discovering the mysterious Baltic Sea anomaly in 2011. This strange, massive underwater formation is perhaps the biggest underwater UFO mystery to date. Approximately 200 feet wide and resting on the ocean floor. Debunkers say it must be a natural rock formation. But Dennis Asberg and his team say what they felt in the area is truly anomalous. That's why they're still out there in the water, hunting now in the Baltic Sea near Russia and Finland for underwater UFOs. On his recent expedition, diving into the depths, finding underwater submarines, shipwrecks,
don't even know what it is.
And seeing strange things in the sky.
Okay, drop up.
In 2011, Asberg and his Ocean X team discovered something mysterious on the ocean floor, a possible non-human structure.
I mean, the first time we saw it, that was the experience, because we have never seen anything like that before.
The object's now known as the Baltic Sea anomaly. In the decade since making the discovery, only more questions have been brought than answers. What is it? How old is it? How did it get stranded at the bottom of the ocean? But the hardest question of all to answer, where did it come from? And are there others in our oceans?
When we got close to the area, suddenly we had several ships on the radar, or it looked like several ships on the radar, but there were no ships there.
The strange thing was, before we start filming, they were there all the time. They did not get away or disappear or anything.
Asberg and his team have been documenting the strange occurrences and phenomena he and his team encounter when they approach the site of the anomaly. I recently talked to Dennis Asberg about the Baltic Sea anomaly. I asked him if he thinks the anomaly is something that can be naturally occurring, or if he believes the object's an interstellar mystery.
Lots of people have sent messages to me that this is Millennium Falcon you have found, and yeah, it's not, but it is something for sure. That's why I'm struggling with it.
Tell me the story of how you discovered this object.
Yeah, we are an explorer company, treasure hunters, you can say also. Diving with salvage shipwrecks around the world and cargo from shipwrecks. We have scanned for like 2.5 hours, and then this thing popping up on the monitor. And I remember we were quite surprised, and Peter, my colleague, is looking at me and say, "Dennis, you know, here it's a UFO." And I just, what?
Why couldn't it be just a big lump of rock?
That's very interesting rock then. Nothing I have seen before, not my colleagues around the world that are explorers as me. You know, I put lots of time to see if I can get any answer from people that work with the same thing as I do. And nobody have really come up with a good answer.
You noticed other anomalies when you were on site. You had all sorts of weird things happening over the object. Can you talk me through what happened?
Yeah, lots of things have happened out there. The first time we were out there, we noticed that we have problems with our equipment. The ROV did not work properly. Even his camera stopped working, the light stopped working. And I, when we talked about that, I said, okay, we have the same problem with the ROV, with the robot. The compass not working properly, and it feels like this thing or whatever it is don't want us to come near it.
It's not just happening in the depths of the ocean. Hundreds of miles from land, people all over the world are seeing mysterious orbs hovering around large bodies of water, from large coastal cities to small town beaches.
There's no strobe lights on it, which is weird.
That video came from Enigma Labs, which bills itself as the first real-time UAP sightings alert network, allowing users to upload their sightings to the video sharing platform. They recently released a report detailing thousands of strange sightings in waters around the world. They say their goal is to collect evidence in hopes of one day explaining the inexplicable. Congressman Tim Burchett is a vocal skeptic of the official US government position on UFOs, that all of these sightings are some kind of gigantic hoax perpetrated by the Pentagon. This is the lawmaker who wants to expose the truth. The congressman from Tennessee believes in USOs. He's the co-chair of the bipartisan UAP caucus, which he launched to look into allegations UFO whistleblower David Grush made in his interview with me about a legacy crash retrieval program being hidden by the US government. Burchett has helped lead multiple congressional hearings looking into an alleged cover-up, working to strengthen whistleblower protections. He's very keen on the idea that some or many of these UFOs are coming from underwater. You've been quite outspoken on the subject of USOs. Why is that? What prompted your interest?
Well, my conversations with pilots, and they seem to always be over water. And then a chance conversation I had with a former admiral, or I guess you're always an admiral if you're one, about these 5 or 6 deep water areas. And it just seemed to make sense. That's where you're seeing a lot of the observations of the UFOs. And then when I'm told something big as a football field is moving at 200 miles an hour underwater, when I know the best we have is around 30, it lends itself to a lot more questions than answers.
I understand you've spoken to people who are direct witnesses to claims that there are objects that have been detected underwater moving at hundreds of miles an hour. What more detail can you give me on these particular incidents?
Well, of course, it's done by sonar, and the fact that we have nothing in those capabilities. And if you shoot a bullet literally into a swimming pool, it's going to go just a few feet before it just stops. But you can shoot it through the air and it can go over a mile. And it just shows you the amount of friction and the amount of power that would have to have. But also it lends itself to why we keep seeing these things over water and then things that dive into the water.
One of the things you've spoken about is the speculation of underwater bases, not human bases, but bases by non-human entities. What can you tell me about what you've been told?
Well, that the concentration would be such that that's where they would be, and that we have not been able to explore any of these areas. If you just look at the numbers of sightings out over the ocean, it just seems to lend itself to that. And if you wanted to be undisturbed, where you wouldn't go in the middle of New York City or Knoxville, Tennessee, you'd go, although there's some strange things I've seen here, you would go where you would be least disturbed. And so the most unexplored area and the vastness of our great oceans is kind of hard to comprehend at some point.
You've speculated about 5 or 6 bases of non-human entities. Where did you get that number from?
From some Navy officials. that had in fact had broached that subject to me. I always remember the last thing this one fellow said, because you've been in my office, but you come in one door and you can go out the other if you choose. And nobody ever does. They just go out the entrance they came up. He chose to go out the other door so he could kind of get away from all the other. And the last thing he said was, he looked at me and said, "Tim, they're real." And I'll never forget that. And it led me to believe that he had more information.
And to be very clear about this, Tim, what you're saying is that these objects underwater, these bases underwater, they are non-human. You're clear about that?
That would be my belief, yes, sir. We don't have the capabilities of traveling there or doing anything else.
Clearly, something is operating in our oceans very close to the continental United States. And as you've speculated, it's perhaps using it for some kind of surveillance.
100%. That's the only reason that would be doing it. When the numbers go up and then they drop off to almost nothing, and then you have these clusters that occur, and that would lead you obviously to believe that something is observing us, or we're observing something, and we're observing them. But I guess it still just bothers me that our government won't come forward with it, because and the guys on the intelligence committee. I think, and gals, I think you have a few in there that just want to dissuade us from finding out what the real truth is.
Well, let's go to basics, Tim. Do you think we are being lied to by the government of the United States about the nature of these threats from the ocean?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. I think we're being lied to about a lot of things. I am the part of the government, and I don't trust it. I don't trust what's going on. You have to ask yourself, why are we being told to keep quiet? Why the secrecy? And it lends itself to Washington in itself. It's about power. It's about control. It's about secrecy. And therein lies some of the power and control over all of us. And I suspect all governments across the globe are the same way.
What do you think is President Trump's position on this? Do you think he's still amenable or open or receptive to the idea of being more open about UAPs, as he promised during his campaign for the second administration?
I think he is. I still think he is. I've put a lot of faith and trust in mine and his relationship. I don't bother him about stuff all the time. I've asked for a 15-minute meeting with him, and I would like to discuss. There's 2 or 3 things I want to bring up to him that I think would go a long way, and one of those is this issue.
Still to come on this special edition of Reality Check, we head to Southern California with special instructions to map deep caverns off the coast of Los Angeles. And why this former Trump administration official says California could be home to a secret underwater UFO highway. Welcome back to this special edition of Reality Check. I'm your host, Ross Coulthart. Our correspondent, Ben Hansen, is a UFO hunter in his own right. We sent him off the coast of Southern California with a mission to interview witnesses and use high-tech equipment to take us under ocean waters.
Now we have Rear Admiral Timothy Gallaudet. Now he's been a member of our team for quite some time because of his expertise in so many things. I mean, NewsNation is not a stranger to the Rear Admiral here. He was the admin of NOAA. He's has a doctorate in oceanography. And for these reasons, we'd like him to weigh in on what we're about to do here. So, Tim, thanks so much for joining us. We're here actually a couple miles offshore of Redondo Beach. And the information that you sent me about the Redondo Canyon, I'd like to ask you a couple questions about that.
Well, so I did some research here in a fairly recent paper on the sedimentary processes in this region. Was published in about 10 years ago here in Marine Geology. And this is a really interesting paper because these authors used all the modern instruments that are at our disposal. So we're talking what they call multi-beam bathymetry or multi-beam sonar. and also autonomous underwater vehicles that have side scan sonar on them. So they have some highly resolved data sets that are worth digging into. So first off, here's the big overview of the area we're looking into. You have Santa Monica Bay, and then it's got yet one canyon, Santa Monica Canyon, and then the Redondo Canyon. And then another view straight on is here. And so, yeah, there's a,
oh, wow.
Look at the drop off. If I were a USO and I wanted to hide somewhere, this is a great place to do it. And you see the steep structures here on the canyon walls. Now, granted, there is one thing. These are very active areas. So they're often these turbidity flows or landslides underwater. So a lot of activity to conceal any movement by any craft. So this would be the place to be.
And Admiral, doesn't this connect? The end of this Redondo Canyon connects to the wider Catalina Channel. Is that correct?
That's right. Let's go back a little bit. And this is really interesting. So first off, this red circle is the region I recommended you go dive on. And you can see it. It just pretty much goes right to the offshore region, the Santa Monica Basin and Catalina Channel, where I showed you earlier. This is the area where a lot of UAPs have been seen by Navy ships and others. So yeah, it's basically it's kind of like a monorail route right into the region UAPs have been sighted. That's why I think it'd make for an ideal place of concealment, coming from offshore and going into this canyon. And so I know Navy pilots well, and their attitudes. And he joked. He said, "I don't know what it is, but I sure would like to fly it."
We have Oceanbotics with us. They've been very gracious to lend us their latest and greatest. We will let you know if we find anything. I've been told we even have sonar and a grabber arm on the bottom. Now, I don't think we're going to grab anything at the bottom, but who knows?
So we're about 5 miles offshore of Redondo Beach, and we're following the GPS coordinates that Admiral Gallaudet gave us. We're hoping to put in here at about maybe 900 feet and start drifting so that we can get somewhere. Your tether goes to about 1,000. We need a couple hundred feet though to maneuver in. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it looks like it has some pinchers on there.
It does. We have a mechanical grabber, so if we see something of interest and we want to bring it up to the surface, we can inspect it.
Can it grab a 20 or 30 foot saucer disc and bring it up?
Depending on the weight and water, yes it can.
I think the main goal here is to see from our perspective how far and fast this canyon drops off and what it looks like. All we have are maps from the top side.
All right, on three. 1, 2, 3.
You are free, little ROV. Go forth and find us UFOs.
Our field of view right now, I'd say is probably 20 feet there. And then on the sonar, we have it set to 100 feet in front of us.
100 feet, but can the lights let us see about what, 20 feet?
About 20 feet of visibility right now. Okay. Right now we are 8 feet from the surface. We're all the way down now. Look at all those fish.
Whoa, that is awesome.
It's a whole school right there, 5 feet from the bottom.
Whoa, everywhere. They're coming to the light, probably.
I think so. I'm in it.
Look at that. Everything I'm seeing around is very silty. Viz is really quite bad until you get right down to it.
Yeah, because we're so deep that there's no light from the sun anymore.
So as you're going along there, is it going deeper? We're heading back towards into the canyon from the shallow end?
It is getting deeper.
Okay. Yep. And then you just hit bottom and it created a cloud of dust.
Yeah.
I can see why the Admiral says, like inside the canyon itself, this has experienced probably a lot of like landslides.
I can see that.
Over thousands of years, and the erosion has just created like a silty bottom.
There's an urchin.
Yep. Which also causes it to be really low vis, I imagine. Right? When I think canyon, I'm thinking like rock walls, which probably there are those as well. But the actual inside of the canyon looks very silty to me.
A lot of sand and silt.
Yeah. Which further adds to the theory that something could hide here quite easily. It's not just the depth of it, it's the fact that our lights, as powerful as they are, we're only seeing about 20 feet ahead of us, if that.
Yeah, it's natural camouflage. Oh, somewhere to grab? Yeah, I'll pull it. There you go.
All right.
That's it.
We've launched it and retrieved it.
It's a good sign.
So this is a great example of what we're trying to accomplish today. You can see on the side profile of the sonar here, this indicates where we've been, and this was about 250 feet. That was the level of the kind of like, I guess you could say the plains. Where it dropped off when we put the ROV was right here, right at the drop off. You can see now it goes all the way down to 800 feet right here. And then there's another little canyon, and then this, as we're progressing back to shore now, comes all the way back up to the surface. So we have this huge canyon that's not too far off from the shore, and that leads right up literally to the Redondo Beach Pier.
Did Ben find a UFO? No, but he exposed how easy it is for them to hide there. Even with world-class underwater video equipment, it's practically impossible to get a true look inside the underwater canyons below the famous military UFO sighting, the Tic Tac. Who knows what else could be lurking below? When anomalies leave the ocean, they head towards the sky, which is where viewers like you and military pilots often spot and report them. Next up, a UFO witness called Thor with a wild story. And he's also got a cute dog.
That is, his name is My Puppy. He goes everywhere with me.
Has My Puppy been on a lot of your journeys and everything out on the boat?
For the past 8 years, yeah. He's been there every time with me.
Welcome back to this special edition of Reality Check on NewsNation. I'm your host, Ross Coulthart. The military videos of possible UAPs, known as the Tic Tac, Go Fast and Gimbal, have captivated us all for years and gone without acceptable explanation by the Pentagon. And there are countless sightings of strange lights and possible UFOs over the waters of our oceans every week. Thor Lysen is a boat captain who frequents the waters near Catalina Island.
These lights started appearing up in the sky.
Hard to find where the hell. Okay, where'd the third one go?
On the 13th of September 2021, Thor was on the water when he recorded this video showing 3 orange orbs. This is the same general area where the famous Tic Tac video was recorded by the US military, and above the deep and mysterious ocean caverns that Tim Gallaudet pointed us to.
While I was actually filming these lights, my friend called me on the telephone, asked me if I was okay. I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, well, I see lights out there. And I thought they might have been flares, like you were shooting flares out, because she knows my past and that I've had I've been stuck on boats stranded out in the ocean before, so she's just reassuring that I wasn't stuck on a boat.
So she could see them all the way from Catalina.
You know that Catalina is very rich in UFO history.
Thor's video was first tested for some kind of logical explanation by Discovery Channel investigators.
So the first thing we did was check the marine casualty database to see if anybody had an emergency or they had to shoot off an emergency flare.
The Marine Casualty Database tracks emergencies on the water, and that night nobody was firing flares. Nearby Camp Pendleton also telling this Discovery Channel investigative team there were no nighttime drills. Vandenberg Air Force Base did launch a SpaceX rocket with Starlink satellites that night, 155 miles north and 25 minutes before Thor's sighting. But these investigators say that doesn't explain this UFO, based off the trajectory of the rocket and the timing.
So we don't know what it is.
I personally think this is one of the most compelling
cases that we've seen.
And Thor tells NewsNation's Ben Hansen in a brand new interview that was far from his only sighting.
Oh, wow. They came back.
We'll talk about the video first. So you have this amazing video of these kind of, would you describe them as orangish, amberish spheres, orbs?
Yeah, they look like miniature galaxies, to tell you the truth, yeah.
Okay.
Like when you're looking inside of them? Or what do you mean they look like a...
Like if you saw a picture of a galaxy, there's like this spiral, like, I don't know, misty looking of stars or whatnot going on in there. Yeah. That's what they look like.
Your day job, you're a boat captain, correct?
Yeah, I do sport fishing charters here out of Dana Point Harbor.
Okay, how long have you been piloting boats?
I've been taking boats out of this harbor since I was a little kid. So like there's the houses on the cliff right over there. Those were always blocking my view. No, I grew up in this neighborhood, so this is like my backyard right here.
Okay, so many, many years of doing this. And that's what really interests us with your case, because how long would you say the total duration from when you saw these things? You have a couple minutes on that video, but if you were to say from start to stop on one set of those orangish lights, how long were they up in the air?
Probably I was witnessing them flying close to my boat for about 10 minutes. There's some smaller ones off in the distance you don't see in the video, but it started out like as 3 orbs that were close together like in a triangular pattern, and they'd all kind of they were changing colors from red, black, orange, some weird oddball stuff, and they would merge together as one, and then they'd split off. There'd be 2 of them, then there'd be 1, then there'd be 3 of them, and at certain points they'd just disappeared altogether and would just reappear. They'd drop down close to the water, like right above the water, and started coming towards me.
Really?
Until they finally just disappeared, and it looked like they disappeared down into the ocean at that point.
And the reason I fully believe you is because I've talked to a lot of people. We've had other witnesses, very, very similar, orangish lights. We're always trying to figure out, could they possibly be flares? That's why, because of our connections here, Silverado did contact some friends. And what did we learn then about the actual Navy exercises that night?
So we were able to establish at least a month prior to your sighting, there was a large-scale Navy exercise going off the coast, but it ended a month before your sighting happened.
Yeah. We're pretty confident in saying that this was not military exercises. It was nothing that was officially done by them. And if you do something unofficially, you're still probably going to use your exercise training area. There'll be no point to alarm, regular citizens or cause safety issues. Because as a pilot, if someone's dropping an air flare in front of me, I am blinded, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that is not cool. So you also had a pretty incredible event take place.
So we're probably right around 5-7 miles off of Avalon towards this coast, a little bit south of there.
Okay.
And we drove over something, and I know the water's like probably like 1,400 feet deep, or it drops off really deep out there into the abyss, basically. And somewhere along the line, we drove over something. I have no idea what it could have been, but as we drove over it for those few moments, it flashed lights up at us. Like, I'm talking like, it looked like baseball stadium lights just surrounding the boat, just beaming up all around us.
When you say drove over, was it already lit up and then you went over the top of it?
No,
or
it wasn't
it came
till
up after you were over?
It wasn't until we got directly over whatever it was when these lights came and just beamed all around the boat. Middle of the night, probably around 12 o'clock.
So it lit everything up.
Yeah.
Could you estimate kind of what the radius, how big it was around the boat?
I would say quite possibly half the size of a field.
Of a football field?
50 yards?
Yeah, about 50 yards.
Wow.
25 in all directions. And sat there the rest of the night with a gun in my hand waiting for something to come creeping out of the water. I was that scared.
Wow.
Like, I don't get scared easy, but that was a moment.
Now, this is a ridiculous question, but what would you tell people who said, oh, well, it's probably phosphorus and algae and the blooms we get, that sparkle?
Yeah, well, the phosphorescence, I've seen it all my life since I live right here. I mean, you catch like a little mackerel that's like a foot long and it looks like it's 10 feet when you're catching it at night with the phosphorescence. And it glows a green color. Like I said, baseball stadium lights that were bright white beaming up from the bottom or wherever, however deep it was down there.
I even got some information from an air traffic controller who said they had jets scrambled somewhere between here and the channel because I believe a pilot had witnessed something under the water. They said it was like the size of a city. All right, a light the size of a city. And so they went to check it out. So just know, well, you already know, you're not the first or the last to witness that type of phenomena. What it is, I don't know, but we're gonna look into it further.
They recorded something in the sky, like an anomaly.
They did. I was actually there.
In the sky, they captured something on their IR camera. It was kind of like this dark part of the cloud and these objects that looked like they were around it, right? The same time, this same device, the Cosmic Watch, picked up an anomaly.
This is where they did research and found that anomaly, they isolated it to somewhere within this very large area.
I'm Ben Hansen, and this is Reality Check with Ross Coulthart on NewsNation. So we are at Long Beach Airport, and we're going to be taking off in this plane in just a minute. We're going to be exploring a couple of areas very unique to Southern California, where dozens, if not hundreds of witnesses have seen strange objects coming up out of the water, USOs.
Long Beach, Glen, Cessna 65537, Aces High for 26 right with India.
5, all ground traffic is 133.0, land and hold short operations at a 5.
26 right, taxi via Kilo, thank you, Cessna 527. All right, we're ready. Cool. All right, gauges are alive, airspeed's alive. All right, so Newport Beach is just to the left of us under here. We're at 5,500. And we're cruising over the top of the airspace of John Wayne Airport. So from here, about this location over to Catalina is where Dr. Knuth and Zadaski, I never say his name right. He'll hate me for that. Anyways, this is where they did research and found that anomaly. They isolated it to somewhere within this very large area, all the way out to Catalina. Right, and so it's really hard for us to pinpoint an exact area, so we're going to fly a track kind of back and forward down in this area to see if we have any anomalous sort of a reading show up in the particle detector. We're trying to stay out of the airspace of John Wayne Airport, and our GPS that's broadcasting what our ADS-B data we call it keeps disappearing. My plane. Resume on navigation. Thank you. We keep disappearing. So my icon on my ADS-B data keeps disappearing. Now that's not totally uncommon, but in that same spot, as we went down and as we came back, it's malfunctioning. And if we go back and we see if there's any strange anomaly readings with particle detector.
So this was weird, guys. Ross is gonna love this. No joke, in this one area around Laguna Beach, it was just in this area as we're going back and forth on this track, I lost GPS data. Now that's not too uncommon with device we use sometimes to go out, but it returns when I leave the area.
So Ben, these detectors that you were using, what are they? How do they work?
I went to Dr. Jadagas and I said, look, we're going to be going up in a plane. Our interviews, everything kind of pointed us to the idea that I think we should get up in the air and try to do a survey. But what do you survey with? We've got EMF fields, radiation, which I really know very little about. So the expert
Dr. Zadaga said, well, we've got these particle detectors. So he lent them to me, gave me some basic instructions, and I had one of my team members, John, run that. And I'll let Dr. Zadaga explain when we turned over the data to him what he actually found.
Professor?
What happened was crazy, in my opinion. So first, one of them didn't work at all. That was not anomalous because equipment just doesn't work. Equipment fails. It's not anomalous. But one was working. But very strange is that when he got close to the area, on our famous hole in the sky, he didn't just experience GPS issues. That's a separate story. But we also found, when I looked at the data from the Cosmic Watch, it seemed to start rising faster than I would have expected naturally from cosmic rays with altitude. And then all of a sudden, the device just stopped working. And I've never seen it stop working in this exact failure mode. It just stopped taking data. And then when he left this roughly rectangular area, and when he's landing the plane, it resumed normal operation. And despite multiple attempts for me of testing the exact same unit that is shipped back to me, I could not replicate this failure mode where it just stopped taking data. I cannot explain this right now.
So, Professor, what's the takeaway from that? Are you now saying there is a portal, a tear in the sky, some kind of wormhole?
I'd love to be able to say that, but we don't have sufficient evidence of that because we don't have gravitational anomalies, gravitational waves like you'd see from something like that. We are very far from being able to confirm something like that. I would love to be able to confirm something like that, but we are still in the scientific process, which is slow. Science is slow and boring. We're still not there. But where we are is we're better off than we were. We now have more evidence that there is something strange in the Catalina area.
Next up, is there a secret underwater base near Catalina Island? One of the leading experts on underwater UFOs is author and investigator Richard Dolan. Richard's the author of a series of books on USOs, unidentified submerged objects. He and I talked about the speculation, the possibility that there's some kind of secret underwater base off the coast of Catalina Island. Catalina Island is clearly a UAP hotspot. What's going on?
What I can definitely say to you is that there is an inordinate number of truly fascinating UAP and USO cases in that area. One thing I wonder is what kind of military, if any, connection is there. Catalina Island is not far from the area where, of course, the USS Nimitz had its encounter with the famous Tic Tac UFO. We all know about that. And there are a number of other U.S. Navy operations going on down there by San Diego and all across the California coastline, in fact. So that's a factor that I often wonder, like, how does that fit into all of this? And I don't know if we have the full answer, but I can definitely say with confidence that there is a definite strangeness going on with that area, without a doubt.
Is it possible, Richard, that there's a base of non-human intelligences that's located itself somewhere underwater?
I definitely think it's possible, yes, Ross, I do. There are a few places on the planet where it seems to me that you've got a real potential for a non-human base, and I do think that Catalina Island or somewhere around that is a real possibility.
Well, that concludes our special edition of Reality Check on NewsNation, investigating USOs, unidentified submerged objects. It's interesting when you consider that 70% of the Earth's surface area is covered by our oceans, and we know so little about them. Small wonder then that so much of attention now is being directed towards our oceans as a possible explanation for the UFO UAP mystery. It's a very intriguing question. Are there some kind of alien life form living inside our oceans? Maybe the answer lies in the deep. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Ross Coulthart. I'll see you again soon sometime.